Welcome back to the State of the Nation. I'm your host, Mike Sham. We've grown accustomed to our rights being defended by some of our very active civil society organizations, and one of them that has really done some great work trying to protect the citizens of South Africa has been ARTO, and that is represented by Wayne Duvenage. Wayne, welcome back to State of the Nation.
How's it, Mike? Nice to be with you today.
Yeah, the last time we were here, we spent quite a bit of time talking about car power ships.
Yeah.
But the reason that I thought we must get you back so soon is that you suffered a bit of a setback.
Yeah. Not really, eh? It's not a critical matter, the ARTO matter. I mean, we've been in court many, many times. We've won virtually all our cases. But in this case, we won it in the High Court, who did see the unconstitutionality of ARTO, our arguments. And ARTO is the Administrative Adjudication of Traffic Offences, the Act. And we've got no problem with a point demerit system, which is what this whole issue is centered around. But there's an issue around national government usurping local government's powers, and that's going to still come to the fore. And the Concord said they're entitled. National is entitled to deal with matters that are a national issue. The problem is that the collection of traffic fines is done at a local level, local government issue. And it's going to be very interesting to see now how this plays out, because I've no doubt that the City of Cape Town and other municipalities and metros who do well in collecting their own traffic fines are not going to easily hand over that collection process to the RTIA, that's the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, who themselves will take a big cut of that, especially the late payment penalties and so forth. And the municipalities rely on this revenue. So I don't think that's going to play out the way the courts seem to just think, well, if we legislate it, or the Department of Transport thinks, if we just legislate things. We've seen this movie before, by the way. Remember e-tolls? When government came with this elaborate plan, this is how they were going to collect toll revenues on urban freeways. And we said, guys, besides there are some legal issues here. This is not about legislating something and thinking that it all falls into place. It's going to collapse. So the courts, they went to court, or we went to court to stop it. The court said, SANRAL's allowed to toll the roads. So we said, fine, go ahead, be our guests, let's watch this space. Well, I don't have to tell you what happened. It collapsed. Exactly the same thing, probably worse, is going to happen to the ARTO, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency system. And it's not because we want it to be so. We want to live and work in countries where administration works. It's because they don't have the systems to back it up. So you need an accurate NATIS system. It's not accurate. You don't get your fines. You don't get notifications because your emails change, your address has changed. It's never updated. You need a reliable postal service. I don't have to tell you about that. But besides that, they've now adjudicated or changed the law that they can issue your fines electronically. Your Facebook page, your email. How many people move? How many people change email addresses? How many people don't get their fines that way? And not everybody is on email. Not everybody's on Facebook. So we can see that there's going to be some really interesting developments when people arrive at the post office or at the traffic department to collect their license for their vehicle and find out, oops, somebody's maybe been riding on my number plate, because you can clone number plates easily, or I've racked up all these fines and suddenly I don't have a license. Now I'm a sales rep or a driver. I don't have a job. So the ramifications and consequences of a very poorly introduced administrative system has dire consequences for people's lives. And I think that's where we're going to start seeing how this plays out. And it's going to become litigious as well, as did the e-toll matter. So interesting times ahead. And I must just say this, Mark, it's not that we take on these matters for any other reason than we need to ensure that government runs itself efficiently. Now, when the RTIA did their roadshow to try, the public engagement process of how ARTO works, we went to a lot of those events around the country, and they were, quite frankly, a waste of time. They were not engaging with people that had serious questions. So we then called a workshop with industry players and stakeholders in this matter. So the Automobile Association, the car rental industry, the Road Freight Association, a number of entities where the RTA's process on ARTO will affect them and individuals. We held a workshop. We invited the RTAA to come and join us, because you need to hear what the frustrations are, not just in some of the areas that you were. There's a bigger picture here. They initially said yes, they would like to come, they would be there, and they just failed to pitch the day before. They just sent us a mail saying sorry, they're not going to arrive. At that workshop was the Metro Police of Tshwane and Joburg, where the ARTO Act had been, ARTO administrative process had been in trial for over 10 years. Both of them were there, the Metro Police, and they both said their problems with ARTO. That's the police, the Metro Police within those municipalities. So we're in for some interesting times.
Yeah, this is shaping up to be e-tolls 2.0, perhaps even on a grander scale. I think that the most accurate assessment of the problems at Bedevil, every sort of one of these sort of fanciful schemes is, I a couple of months back spoke to Tony Leon, who had written, to my mind, a very, very good article, good piece on this, saying that parts of South Africa are Switzerland and part of Venezuela. And, we keep on having this elaborate legislation passed that is applicable to Switzerland, but we're actually living in Venezuela largely. This just seems, having straddled old systems and new, you don't have to be a genius to work out how integrated the system must be to effectively manage road traffic infringements.
You need laws, one thing, but they keep making this mistake and thinking that, well, if we legislate it, people will come running, everything will just fall into place. But when people try and participate in your processes, in your laws, and they find it difficult to do so because they can't get their traffic fines, or they try and pay them, and their problems. I mean, it's not just having the laws, it's having the administration in place and having the efficiencies and the schemes working. I mean, right now, we're uncovering that the RTIA has loaded old traffic fines. Now, these are fines that have not followed due process. You're supposed to get a notice within 32 days of your fine and the courtesy letter. None of that has happened. So they haven't followed due process. There have been legal cases that the RTA have lost in court on this matter, and they're doing it again. Now, this is an entity that is supposed to follow the rules and the laws. They are breaking them. So when you go now to get your traffic, your vehicle license, and suddenly you find enforcement orders, which they've been put there illegally because they haven't followed that process, what do? Do you start arguing with the teller? Where did these come from? So you're forced to pay. You're almost coerced to pay. Otherwise, you've got to go back. You've got to take time off work and go back, try and get these things sorted out. It's a mess, and they're taking advantage of the mess. So we're going to have to go and talk to them again about why are they breaking the law. I mean, when you start losing trust in your own administrative processes because they're behaving out of line, that's the type of recipe that's going to be looming now for the disaster of ARTO. ARTO will fail as a result of the way they apply the rules, the way they apply the systems and the processes, not because the law, which works in many parts of the world, as the Z-tolling and that we've shown them, it's how you apply it. I mean, you can't in some of these countries where the demerit point system works. You can't go and clone number plates. You can't drive without a driver's license. Here in South Africa, I've always said that South Africa is one of those countries where you can drive a car without a license, without a driver's license. So the car doesn't have a license, and you don't have a driver's license, and it's an unroadworthy car, and you can probably get away with it for your entire life. Because this is about visible policing that's missing. It's not about setting up camera traps all over the place and trying to make money. This is a money-making racket. And those things don't work. And people start fobbing them off, finding the way around them, and you have the standoff between government and citizens. That's what happened on e-tolls as well. Citizens and government were at war with each other. We're not paying. Yes, you're going to pay. We're going to take you to court. If you don't, we're going to give you criminal records. Well, then come and try us out. That's not how you run a country. They're doing the same thing with ARTO.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back a step to e-tolls, as much as they... what is the status? Because, I mean, the e-tolls are still very much in place, and every now and again some ANC person puts their head up and says e-tolls will be implemented.
It's a joke. You know, e-tolls was exactly what we said they should have implemented in 2012. Last year in October, the Minister of Finance announced, we're not going to try and finance this road, these bonds through a toll collection system. We're going to finance it through the fiscus mechanisms, the very same ones that we'd proposed. That decision was made in October and announced at the midterm budget policy statement. Then the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, and the Department of Transport said by the end of the year, in 31st of December 2022, the scheme will be switched off. Panyaza Lesufi even went further to say we'll refund those who've paid. We are now in July. Nothing has happened. Nothing whatsoever has happened. They still cannot implement the decision to dismantle the scheme. That's how poorly administered this issue is, as will the ARTO matter be.
Yeah, look, I think we've got to take everything that Panyaza Lesufi says with a massive bag of salt, because the man is just desperate. He's going to be out of office in a year's time, because I
don't think they'll win Gauteng. I agree.
It looks highly unlikely that they'll win Gauteng, and he'll say anything to get a vote. But let's just go back to the ARTO issue, because it appears to me that South Africa's in a stalemate when it comes to road infringements, as well as some of the bylaws, which is sort of a similar situation to what we are. If not ARTO, then what? Because at the moment it doesn't feel like there is a system. So in a way, I almost have some sympathy with the judge that says, listen, we've got to do something. You may not be saying that, but perhaps that's what the motivation could be. Because we have become that worst of things that you find in most banana republics, where it's just roadblocks.
Yeah.
Right. That is our traffic enforcement. It's roadblocks.
Yeah.
It's roadblocks. The guy stops you. He puts his whole body inside the car in the hope that you smell of alcohol so that he can get a bribe.
Yeah.
But let's just say we felt like running the country properly. And it feels to me that government at so many levels failed to understand the way the world has worked. They didn't understand that their own postal system, for which they own, no longer operates. But it's a crucial part of this, Wayne, in terms of the way the Act is written.
Extremely.
What should we be doing?
Well, one of the things they're trying to do is to take these minor infringements out of the court process, because it can clog the courts up. And it clogs them up because there's no management of those local traffic fines, parking fines and no entries and so forth. So basically, if you run your municipality well, you put in your own bylaws, you put up your own speed fines and speed zones, and you collect your traffic fines, and you have visible policing. And there are some towns that do this well. So not much of it finds its way into court. You get your notifications in on time, and you pay. Now, if you had an efficient postal service, that works even better. So that's how you do it. But if you want to take those minor infringements out of a court process and you want to put it into this ARTO space, that's fine. But what you're going to have to do is allow and serve fines electronically. You need to allow the competence at local government level to issue fines and collect them themselves. And then you can push those notifications into a demerit point system at a national level, so that you have nationally, everybody is applied by the same rules of getting demerit point systems. What you don't want is people not getting them in certain areas because they're not uploading that information. So it's about having a system that works, that all the municipalities buy into and engage with them. They've overcomplicated this process, very overcomplicated. You must see the list and the types of fines, and it's really, really difficult. So I think the RTA and government have to just go back to the drawing board and meet with other stakeholders, meet with people who've got concerns, like ARTO, like the Automobile Association, Road Traffic, have just been mailed from by SATSA, the South African Tourism Travel Association as well. They've got big problems with this because the fines that their drivers get when they're taking tourists around the country accrue to the owner of the vehicle. And if they're not managing their internal processes, then the owner of the vehicle gets the demerit points, not the driver. And suddenly, you're going to find people can't drive, but they didn't have the fine infringement. It's all administrative challenges here. What they need to do is just meet with the stakeholders and work together, because we're not opposed to government. We want an efficient government. We work together to find the solutions and we implement it properly together. Government has this notion that we know better, we know what we're doing, we're in power, we'll do it our way, and you'll all just toe the line. Well, we told them.
Yeah, but to be fair, in government, the rules of the road don't apply to them. They've got those wonderful thing called blue lights, and we saw where that got us recently. So at the moment, just to go through the process, you won in the High Court, and then it was taken on appeal to the Constitutional Court.
Yeah, and they're allowed to go ahead. So we've said, like we did with the details, go ahead.
Good luck.
Go ahead, good luck. Just launch it. Let's see how this plays out. If you want to engage, you want to find solutions, we're here. We're not here because we're being vexatious or just want you to fail. We want you to succeed. Seriously, if you don't believe it, we've written to them often. We want to meet with you. We've got concerns. We've got questions. They keep fobbing us off. So let's see where this goes. In the meantime, I'll get asked the question, well, what do the public do now? Well, first of all, try not to get any traffic fines. Drive, we're not advocating that people must break the rules and get away with it. That's not what we want. So drive properly, don't get fines. If you get fines, pay them, find out how you find out where your fines are, and pay them. Don't rack up any demerit point systems. But if you stay on top of that and you suddenly start getting enforcement orders because you haven't paid fines that you thought you'd paid, then you need to start looking into it. And we're going to have to start setting up, like we did on e-toll, some mechanisms and systems to start protecting people from the abuse of power and the abuse of administration systems that don't work. That's what's going to come. And they've been taken to court, RTA, they've lost. They're going to lose again with these enforcement orders that they're just willy-nilly pushing out there. So we've got a lot of work to do. And I think to Mbalula, who just says this is the panacea for road accidents and dealing with people who create all the carnage on the roads, we say he's dreaming. Does he think for 1 minute that because there's a demerit point system that every taxi driver is going to start driving and behaving themselves on the road? Don't be a fool.
Or even if it does work, that a couple of things. Will that taxi driver stop driving when he gets to those demerits? And then secondly, he is in all likelihood doesn't own the vehicle. So when he gets caught, somebody else is getting the demerit. So it's a proper bureaucratic mess.
It's going to be an absolute mess.
Yeah, and in essence, this recent judgment has done the process no good.
Yeah.
Because the government's going to push harder on this piece of string.
Yeah, they think that the law's in our favor, so we can just do what we want. But if people can't participate in your administrative processes, then you have a problem.
Yeah. So Wayne, let's sort of look at enforcement of the law, especially around the roads. Now, your background is in travel, transport, etc. You were the main man at Avis, right? And I know it's a little bit out, but I'm sure you've seen, we've all watched with horror as these trucks have been hijacked on our major roads, which is it's an extension of the construction mafia, as I read it. It's just a transport mafia, one mafia going after the other, by the sounds of things. Am I reading it correctly?
Yeah, we don't know. It's they made some arrests. Let's see who they're arresting, who are the people behind this, what is actually going on. This could be a combination of, hijacking the economy to some extent. We've got a failing rail system. Too much has moved from rail to road. Now the road system is being hijacked, and this is not doing our country any favors. I think to get to the bottom of all of this, Mike, is just pure bad policing. We shouldn't have the levels of crime across all sectors, from gender-based violence to construction mafia to various mafias to what's happening right now. If we were on top of our game, if Becky Taylor was doing his job properly, leading a world-class police service, we wouldn't have this type of stuff. You'd be able to take on all criminal elements. You talk about the coal mafia, Eskom, sabotage. It's just becoming a bit of a joke. Well, a big joke, a serious joke. He is out of line. He's not doing what he should be doing, which is providing the security and the safety.
I would like to disagree with you a little bit, Wayne. I don't think that the problem we have is a policing issue per se. We've got a policing crisis.
Yeah.
But let's understand, and you touched on it, and it should obviously go deeper. We've got a transport problem, right? We've got a rail network which is meant to, most of those trucks are not meant to be on the road. It's the one part of our infrastructure which is still world class as our roads. That's fine, that's great, but they're going to be destroyed.
The national ones.
Yeah, the national ones, and this is where it's happening, to be fair, largely. But the problem lies with incompetence, like Fikile Mbalula, Minister of Transport, managed to watch a rail system getting stolen.
Yeah, and PRASA as well. So I agree with you. I mean, it's an incompetence issue across. So I'm saying from a security point of view, there's incompetence there. So you take incompetence in police, incompetence in transport, education, health, all the crises that we suffer as a result of gross incompetence, ineptitude, lack of accountability, lack of professionalism in most of our government departments from a national level right down. Local government is a mess, but not everywhere. In towns where the ANC rules, and this is not a political party bashing thing, just do the correlations. Go and have a look at the Auditor General's reports and see who runs which cities and towns that work and which ones don't. It is a political issue. There's no political will by the ruling party to do what it's supposed to do and serve the best interests of its people. So we have this mess, and we have them running Department of Transport. The RTIA, which is the ARTO process, comes from the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, the RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation. These are little empires within the Department of Transport. Make a lot of money, by the way.
Yeah, and there's two people that are watching this that haven't made the link. This is very much politically driven, and when you have political, we spend most of our time here talking to politicians, or much of our time talking to politicians. And I've seen something extremely interesting go on. Now, I've said many, many times, and I'll say it again, I'm a big fan of coalitions. Big fan of coalitions because they're messy, but they work. Sometimes you don't want things comfortably. We've spent the best part of the last 3 decades with the ANC in almighty power, where they could do bad things and there was nothing you could do about it. And on the face of it, because there's no big stink as you're generally going down the toilet, it seems like they're out of control. But I want everybody watching this, just think about this. We've recently seen something that was highly, almost efficient in a South African context, and that was, we are up here in Joburg, and there had to be some critical maintenance to our water infrastructure. Now, as we all know, Johannesburg has changed power from one coalition to the next. Everybody's out for each other's bloods. We've had motions of no confidence. It's been an absolute disaster if you look at the newspaper. However, for the first time ever, Rand Water, who were responsible for this process of repairing some of the water infrastructure, knowing that everybody is sitting there waiting for them to make a misstep, communicated brilliantly, stuck to their timelines, created alternatives on those days when the water was meant to be out, did their repairs, and actually restarted the system before the time that they were meant to switch the system back on. It was handled brilliantly. It was the strangest thing that I've seen, and it just goes unnoticed. And I do understand that we shouldn't congratulate a fish for swimming, but this would not have happened if we didn't have coalitions. Because for starters, within the coalitions, the partners are looking out at the partners for any slip-ups. And secondly, the oppositions are looking at this, waiting for the political capital that will come from the incumbents doing a bad job. So,
No, I don't know. Hey? I'm saying that they should have done that the way they did it, but maybe they shouldn't even had to do it in the first place. Remember when our M2 highway was closed down
Yes.
for 9 months?
yes.
An arterial route. It shouldn't have been, because if you are constantly maintaining, you don't do that. If you're constantly maintaining your water systems, you don't. No cities. I don't know if cities shutting down for 3 days
Yes,
while
but
with no water.
I think we have to we have to
Gotta
cut some
give
slack.
kudos, yeah.
We're in a
Well
bad
done.
state.
Imagine
and
if they didn't do it.
yeah, if they didn't do it properly, and that's what we've lived through all of these years, where a system, and we're seeing it with power. You keep quiet, then the system basically falls over, because you don't want to admit that it needs maintenance, or you need to do something that at that time seems unpopular. It's always unpopular to turn off the water, but it's necessary in this case. Okay, we could argue how we got here. That egg's already been scrambled. There's not a hell of a lot we can do about it.
But well done, kudos to them. They did it on time.
Believe me, they wouldn't have done it if there wasn't political pressure. That to me is an absolute
I think there
guarantee.
would have been chaos had they shut down these areas for longer than that period and not communicated properly. I don't know if it was the politics. It's people are getting fed up, and they know that they've got to start doing their jobs properly. And they did a good job in fixing that. But one wonders, why did it get to this? Why did Eskom get to the collapse that it had to get to? And now they're fixing it up and saying, oh, we're okay. You're not okay. You've never been okay. Shouldn't have gotten to the mess in the first place. Shouldn't have had these freeways shut down in the first place. And we see more and more of this lack of attention to detail when it comes to maintenance and repairs and long-term planning. But you don't see that where cities are properly managed. You know, I spoke to the mayor of Saldanha a while ago, and he says they're making decisions now for 5 to 15 years' time, when he knows he will no longer be there, but they're spending that money now for then. That's called long-term planning and putting in the infrastructure for the future. Many of our towns and cities aren't doing that, not even putting in the maintenance for today or tomorrow.
Now, look, I think what you're going to have to get used to is that there's certain bells we can't unring. Right? You can't unring the bell of bad governance if we look at Johannesburg, and you can't say, well, you can't close down the highway because you should have fixed it, 10 years ago. Unfortunately, you can't.
But what about the next one? What about the other bridges?
But at least what we can do is we can fix up from here on. And there, I'm
do.
just saying to everybody watching, we can't lose hope.
Sure, no, we mustn't.
Because the hope comes in the contestation, when people feel that there's a cost to their bad.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the point I'm trying to make, is that there is starting to be a cost, a political cost, right? A social cost, the fact that these jobs aren't done, that there is no long-term planning. I think now everybody is aware of those links. So let's, you touched on it briefly, let's just wrap up by talking power.
Yeah.
We've had this wonderful period where we've got our failed mayor of Tshwane, but now a minister of electricity, running around looking highly energetic. I don't know if he's a cross between a cheerleader and a CEO, but we've had a recent run of good power outcomes, right? And now we've seemed to be going back there, but we're still on a knife edge. I don't think we've got to.
No, he's not on top of it, claiming a lot of kudos when you got it back under, but the energy availability factor was still lower than it was last year and lower than the previous year. The demand has got a lot less. That's why we got out of the sticky situations of level 6. It's coming back right now. Demand is a lot less because there's been a lot of renewables that are coming on stream. People have been taking themselves off and their businesses off the grid. Largely, so the demand has been the reason why we're not heavily into stage 6 for as long as we have been. That's no kudos to the Minister of Electricity.
Yeah.
He just happens to be around at the right time, and he can't claim any of that success, quite frankly.
Yeah, he's around at the suspiciously right time, I would say. And Wayne, we can't mention electricity, and I always get very scared when things go very quiet, because that means somebody's signing deals somewhere. Give us an update on, it feels like an inevitability that for as long as the ANC are near the levers of power, we're going to get Turkish car power ships, and we're going to get Russian nuclear at some point, somehow, some way.
Not going to happen.
But what is the status?
Not going to happen. Car power ships was for one level of load shedding at current day prices, R500 billion over 20 years, even at 5 years. It's never going to happen. That was not the panacea to our emergency, not for one level, and not one of those things that you can park the ship here today and turn on the electricity tomorrow. It's over a year to set up, and in between that time, so much new stuff is coming on stream. And recall 3-4 months ago, everybody was talking car power ships. Not one of them, from the president down, nobody's mentioning it right now because I think the penny has dropped. And this was going to be the door opened for massive corruption, let me tell you. Some people on the middle streams of getting the gas deals and so forth. That was the biggest issue here, and I think they realized that they were not going to get their way, and they've gone very quiet. Car power ships won't happen. We're still in court. They won't give us information. Unless there's transparency, we are not going away. So I think that ship has sailed. When it comes to Russian nuclear, we've been down that road before, followed due process, and we're not opposed to nuclear, by the way. We're not opposed to gas. We're not opposed to. We are for what is the best thing for this country at the best rates for the consumer to get our economy going. And if it makes sense, if nuclear made sense from a cost point of view and an efficiency point of view, why would we be opposed to it? We need energy. But you're not going to put a noose around our neck and the future generations of this country because you have a knee-jerk reaction to something now and when money's going to be made by a handful of people. That's not going to happen on our watch.
Now, Wayne, you've been, thank you for coming in, and I do want to close off by saying the work you do is vital to this country.
Thanks,
right. But to everybody that's watching us that may not be contributing to ARTO or not understanding how you guys fund yourselves,
yeah, look, we are 100% crowdfunded by the public. We rely on donations, and as I've always said, there's no donation is too small, and the person who makes the biggest mistake in this space is the one who gives nothing because they could only give a little. We rely on thousands of littles to make our work possible. We're a team of 45 passionate professionals that do this work, and they're not volunteers. We have to pay them market-related salaries, but they are brilliant at their jobs. I just want to say thanks to the ARTO team. They make it happen. Good guys.
Yeah, I think to everybody watching this today, understand that Parliament makes a mockery of our political system because nothing constructive comes out of Parliament. This country is being run in the courts, sadly. And it's not constructive.
Not because we choose to,
not
because we have to.
Yeah, because we have to. Otherwise, if it wasn't for the court processes that you and many of the opposition parties, largely the DA, must get a big mention of organizations that seem to have 1,000 lawyers on call, and because just about everything that this government does is illegal. It's just so easy to but anyway. Please go to the ARTO website or your social media, arto.co.za, make a contribution. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to the State of the Nation channel. We'll keep on sending you more good content. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wayne Duvenage, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll see you again soon.
Time, man.
Thank you.
All the best, mate. Cheers.